Today is the 6th day of this June 2026 7-day sesshin. And we'll continue with the story of Enno. But let's do some review from yesterday. So after the poetry contest, the fifth patriarch met with Enno in secrecy of night. And there, together, he read to him the Diamond Sutra. And when he got to that place where it says, abiding nowhere, awakened mind arises, Enno had a deeper awakening. Same words. And the fifth transmitted to Enno the robe and the bowl, which made him the sixth patriarch. The fifth knew that his monks wouldn't be cool with this layman from the south, young layman from the south, being the successor. So he told him to advise them to flee. Hide yourself for a few years. Mature your awakening before you start teaching. He did get away, but when word spread that this someone that perhaps didn't deserve it or whatever had made off with the robe and bowl, a band of several hundred monks went after him. He was overtaken by Monk Myo, the ex-general, and their encounter led to Myo's awakening. So let's continue the story. So after his encounter with Myo, the two of them parted, and Enno eventually joins a band of hunters. He's still on the lam. He joins this group of hunters, and they're moving around in the forest, and he's moving around with them. It's a good place to hide. He was with them for about 15 years. Maybe during that time he was learning to read. He was definitely refining his understanding, doing zazen, harmonizing with his true nature. We're told that he would be tasked with checking on traps. And when that was his job to do, he would set the animals in those traps free. You'd think that after 15 years they would notice. Well, one source says, one of these editions says 15 years. Another edition says 10. Another says 3. So maybe after 3 they may not have noticed. But however long it was, after the time had passed, he was ready. He was ready to start teaching. He learned that there was going to be a teisho at a temple nearby on the Nirvana Sutra. And he wanted to hear the teaching. So he made his way to this temple to announce the talk. They do what's done at Arnold Park, where a flag is raised. And it happened to be breezy that day. And what comes next is the contents of a koan. It's Mumonkan number 29, entitled Neither the Wind Nor the Flag. So this is the case. It's short. The wind was flapping a temple flag, and two monks started an argument about it. One said the flag was moving, the other that the wind was moving. Arguing back and forth, they could come to no agreement. The patriarch, so this is Eno, said, "It's not the wind that is moving, it's not the flag that is moving. It is your honorable mind that is moving." The two monks were struck with awe. Now that's the end of the case. So let's take a look at this. The wind was flapping a temple flag. Consider the wind that we had yesterday, blowing the trees. And two monks started an argument about it. One said the flag was moving, or yesterday, the trees. The other, that the wind was moving. Arguing back and forth, they could come to no agreement. So this is how I imagine the conversation happened. So one monk, as he's watching the flag be raised, "Oh, the wind is blowing hard today." And the other monk, "It's not the wind that's blowing, it's the flag." "Well, the flag is moving because of the wind. That means it's the wind that's moving." "Well, we can't see the wind moving, but we can see the flag. It's the flag that's moving." "Well, the flag can't move without the wind, so it's the wind that's moving." "Yeah, you can say that the wind is causing the flag to move, but the fact is the flag is moving." Wind, flag, wind, flag, wind, flag. What's going on here? What's going on in the minds of these monks? A flag is flapping in the breeze. And then a thought arises about that flapping flag in the breeze. Now, it would be fine if the monks left it there. We keep talking about we have no control over thoughts that come into the mind. Thoughts about our practice. Thoughts about what our neighbor's doing. Thoughts about the end of sesshin. Thoughts about the pain in our knee or in our back or in our shoulders. No control over that whatsoever. These monks had a thought about the flapping flag, and it would have been fine if they had just left it there with this thought. But instead of doing that, each one clung to that thought. Abiding somewhere. And became invested in being right. In that whole process of trying to be right, they drifted further and further away from the direct experience of that flapping flag. The patriarch said, "It is not the wind that is moving. It is not the flag that is moving. It is your honorable mind that is moving." It is your honorable mind. Now, he's not talking about their monkey mind, which is on full display in this dispute with each other. He's not even talking about them being overly conceptual, which both of those are true. It is your honorable mind that is moving. What is this mind that is moving? Here's a story. During the Tokugawa period in Japan, a venerable Zen master of the Soto sect by the name of Sono lived in Sendai. One day, one of his disciples came to visit, bringing melons as a gift. The master, much pleased with both the gift and his disciple, suggested they try some of the fruit. Sono, so this is the master, said, "It's very sweet." "Yes," replied his disciple, "it's very sweet." Then the master smilingly asked, "What do you think? Is the melon sweet or the tongue sweet? If the melon is sweet, the sweetness has nothing to do with the tongue. If the tongue is sweet, the sweetness has nothing to do with the melon. Where does the sweetness actually come from? Try to tell me that." It's a challenge. The disciple thought for a while. Gotta say something. No. It comes from the causal contact of the tongue and the melon. I guess you got nothing else, cite Buddhist doctrine. So this causal contact that he refers to has to do with the doctrine of dependent co-arising or interdependence. It's that teaching that nothing exists or happens by itself, entirely on its own. In fact, that's why the book that we've been reading from, Not One Single Thing, that's the idea where it takes its title from. Not one single thing can exist entirely on its own. Everything arises because of causes and conditions. It's like somebody asking you, say, "Hey, do you want to go to the movies tonight?" And you say, "It depends. It depends on if I can find a babysitter. It depends on if I have enough money for the movie. It depends on what time the movie ends. We have a sitting in the morning." And so on and so on. It depends. So when it comes to this melon, this perception of sweetness, depends. Depends on the melon, the tongue, the contact between them, the right kind of nervous system. Remove any of those causes or conditions, then that experience of sweetness will change or disappear entirely. For instance, a year ago, I had COVID. For months, I couldn't taste or smell anything. Where is the sweetness when you can't taste it? So this disciple says, It comes from the causal contact of the tongue and the melon. And the master retorted, that answer is merely from the theoretical standpoint of Buddhism. It contains no experience of the Zen monk. The monk asked him, if so, where does it actually come from? Please give me a turning word. A turning word, it's just a phrase or a word or an action that leads to understanding. This monk is sincere. He wants to know. So where does sweetness come from? From of course, that standpoint of Buddhist philosophy, the monk's response was correct. Sweetness arises because of certain conditions. But this master rejects it because it's just a bunch of words. Bunch of words. And these words assume that the tongue, the melon, and sweetness are separate things. That teaching of interdependence points to not two-ness. No split. In that direct experience of tasting, where is that line between tongue and melon? Where was that line when you were eating the strawberries from breakfast this morning? Was there a line between tongue and the sweetness of those berries? Zen practice is always asking us, what is there before these divisions happen? And the same divisions happen in practice. We so easily get caught up in thoughts about me and my practice. We speak of my meditation, my progress, my understanding, my difficulties. Now, that is totally valid in Doksan. All of that is completely valid in Doksan. That's the place for that, but not here in the Zendo. When we are absorbed completely into our practice, where is that line between me and practice? There is no split there. It doesn't even come up. We've all experienced that. If you haven't, you wouldn't be in sesshin. Right now, is there someone listening to Teisho? Or is there just listening? Lao Tzu said, behind the divisible, there is always something indivisible. Behind the disputable, there is always something indisputable. These divisions like self and other, tongue and strawberries, practitioner and practice. All that is useful for our daily lives. We need them. That's how we communicate with each other. But they're not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There is a wholeness that cannot be split into these parts. Our practice whittles things down so we can see into that place. And that's the place that Sono, the master, was asking his disciple to respond from. Where does sweetness come from? How would you respond? Here's another argument. This one, you may have had this same argument when you were in middle school. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know the question. If eggs come from chickens and chickens come from eggs, which came first? So the evolutionists among us in my middle school group said the egg came first, because of evolution. The creationists among us said the chicken, because God created the chickens, and it created them as is, poof. Sometimes I was on team chicken, sometimes I was on team egg. Chicken, egg, chicken, egg, chicken. There's an answer. This is an article I found recently. It's called, "Which Came First, the Chicken or the Egg?" The age-old riddle has finally been settled. It's quite short. It's not very long. It's by Louis Villazon. He was trained as a zoologist, but now works as a science and technology educator. So here's the answer. Eggs are much older than chickens. Dinosaurs laid eggs. The fish that first crawled out of the sea laid eggs. And the weird articulated monsters that swam in the warm, shallow seas of the Cambrian period 500 million years ago also laid eggs. They weren't chicken eggs, but they were still eggs. So the egg definitely came first. Unless you restate the question as which came first, the chicken or the chicken's egg. Then it very much depends on how you define a chicken's egg. Is it an egg laid by a chicken, or is it an egg that a chicken hatches from? Chickens are the same species as the red jungle fowl of Southeast Asia, although they were probably hybridized with the gray jungle fowl when they were domesticated 10,000 years ago. But it doesn't matter. At some point in evolutionary history, when there were no chickens, two birds that were almost but not quite chickens mated and laid an egg that hatched into the first chicken. If you are prepared to call that egg a chicken's egg, then the egg came first. Otherwise, the chicken came first, and the first chicken's egg had to wait until the first chicken laid it. Okay, so does that settle the matter for you? Do you find that response satisfying? What is the indisputable behind the disputable? What is the indivisible behind this division of chicken, egg, and everything else? Now back to the koan. The patriarch said, "It is not the wind that is moving. It is not the flag that is moving. It is your honorable mind that is moving." The two monks were struck with awe. Now, continuing the story of Enno. Inshu Hoshi, he was the one that was giving the Teisho on their Nirvana Sutra that Enno had came to hear. So this teacher invited Enno to sit in the teacher seat. There was a commotion, just as there was a commotion from Enno's poem. There was a commotion created by his words about the flag. So this teacher had invited him to sit in the teacher seat, and he asked him some questions, both for answers to the questions, but also to test this stranger. Who is this guy talking like that? Word had gotten out that the fifth patriarch had given transmission, the robe and bowl, to someone. Could this be that guy? Inshu Hoshi was impressed and asked Enno, "Are you that guy?" And Enno affirmed it and brought out the robe and the bowl. I don't know where he was carrying it, but he brought it out. Maybe he had a backpack. I don't know. That teacher in Shuhoshi, as well as the other monks, begged Enno to be their teacher, to take over at this monastery. He accepted and was later ordained as a monk. And at this, his teaching career began. And he taught, depending on, how long we think that he was actually with the hunters. Let's say he was there for the longest, for 15 years. He taught for about 35 years. After those years, about 35 years into his teaching, he gathered his disciples together and told them that he would be soon leaving this world. And he invited them to ask him any final questions that they might have. And they did. Over several days, they asked him questions. He wrote verses, gathas, to instruct them, and he read them to the monks. On his death day, he gave his final gatha, his final verse, his final instructions to his students. And here are those instructions. He, in his final instructions, taught the same teachings that he expressed over those 35 years, those same teachings that he was awakened to. Teachers teach from their awakening. And Enno did the same. And I'll be reading from the Platform Sutra, translated by Red Pine. After he finished reciting this gatha, I'm not reading the gatha because it was quite long, the master told his disciples, "Be well, I am leaving you now. After I'm gone, don't engage in the worldly customs of crying and acceptance condolence money and wearing mourning garments." So Chinese custom at that time mandated a 3-year mourning period. So he's telling them, don't do that. That would not be the Buddhist way, and you would not be my disciples. Act the same as when I was here. Sit together in meditation, but remain free of movement and stillness, birth and death, coming and going, right and wrong, present and past. Be at ease and at peace. That is the great way. After I'm gone, just practice in accordance with the Dharma, the same as when I was with you. And if I were here and you disobeyed my teaching, even my presence would be of no help. After he said this, the master spoke no more. During the 3rd watch of the night, he passed away peacefully. He was 76 years of age. And we are following his final instructions. Here in this sesshin, as we sit together in meditation, remaining free of movement or stillness, birth and death, coming and going, right and wrong, present and past, and future. Practicing in accordance with the Dharma. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.